experience been like live streaming in that months? Like, what was your experience with other people on the stream, and what did you take away from that?
So I think like everybody, I've definitely had positives and negatives of streaming. Of course, there's always, no matter how good energy you try to like bring to your stream, every once in a while there's people that come and try to like divert from that. But it's funny because amongst the time of being single and streaming, I've been
Yes.
more of a gifter and I'm definitely more of a gifter than I am a streamer. And
Oh,
coming
wow.
across people's lives like yours is what's kind of changed my mindset going into like going into my own stream. So I take
Right.
out more positive outlook, even if it's been negative comments and stuff. So
Right. That is important. Ultimately
yeah,
speaking, you're putting yourself, and I think it's such a brave thing, and we can just acknowledge that for a second. It is such a brave thing to be able to put yourself on a platform where any single Tom, Dick, and Harry with internet can click into your stream and they can say the absolute worst or most positive things. You are absolutely putting yourself on a platform saying, hey, I like me. I know I'm not perfect, but I'm learning, but I want to share my journey with other people. And so when they connect with that, it's either going to be in a positive or a good way. The important thing is to know that we cannot please every single person. As a streamer, where do you think your mindset is when it comes to whether you like when you're streaming and you deal with negativity, or even in your actual life? How do those two compare and how do you deal with it?
I'm gonna be honest. So being completely transparent, for me purposes, like I like trolls will come in, people will be negative. I used to get called a bunch of names, and I used to like
Right.
attack every single comment. Like I would like entertain every comment, and then I realized in life too, I was like that. I was very confrontational. I'm like, no, I need to defend myself. I need to respond to everything. I need to let them know, don't play with me. But
Right.
now, it's kind of like I'm gonna let them feel how they want to feel because now I'm starting to realize this as I'm ascending and kind of like waking up a little bit. How
Yeah.
somebody feels or whatever they say to me literally is a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves. It has nothing to do with me at all. So
1000%. You couldn't be more right. And I was the same way. I was
for me purposes, like I like trolls will come in, people will be negative. I used to get called a bunch of names, and I used to like
right.
attack every single comment. Like I would like entertain every comment, and then I realized in life too, I was like that. I was very confrontational. I'm like, no, I need to defend myself. I need to respond to everything. I need to let them know, don't play with me. But
Right.
now, it's kind of like I'm gonna let them feel how they want to feel because now I'm starting to realize this as I'm ascending and kind of like waking up a little bit. How
Yeah.
somebody feels or whatever they say to me literally is a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves. It has nothing to do with me at all. So
1000%. You couldn't be more right. And I was the same way. I would say something I don't like, I'm gonna be in your face and you're gonna know about it. But the important thing is learning how to let go and not allowing outside influence to dictate who you are and who you become. Because ultimately speaking, you're your own person. And now you come online for whatever reason you started streaming. You started streaming or you continued streaming after the fact. And it's who you engage sometimes can trigger you in certain ways, but it's learning emotional intelligence and having those tools to say I need to switch off. And a big struggle for me that I didn't have when I was in your position where I was very reactional, I didn't have somebody to teach me any better or told me that's not okay or you shouldn't allow that. But it took somebody to say something super basic to me like, hey, they don't pay your bills. They do not contribute to who you are as a person. Why do you care? I'm like, I don't. So why do you say something? It's all about having that understanding that these people are miserable. And for you to be able to acknowledge that shows a huge amount of growth. How do you think you've grown as a streamer from then to now?
well, It literally took, and I know I keep referencing back to this, but I feel like so many other people could probably relate to this, but it literally took me exiting a very toxic relationship to start to understand myself better. And streaming for me was, I'm very socially awkward, which I know sounds crazy because I'm pursuing music, but being on
Yeah.
stage is completely different than being like around people. And I always say this, like people be people in, you know? So like I I found with Meet Me, the second I get uncomfortable, I could just hit that X. Like I can get off. You know what I'm saying? Like I can be done with the people. But
Ever try to push through it? Like, you know that sometimes when you feel annoyed, uncomfortable, you're like, ugh, I'm over it.
yeah,
Like, have you ever tried to push through it? Like, take yourself, like, it's not worth it. Let me breathe and let me just continue. Have you ever tried that?
absolutely. In the beginning, not so much because I'm just like, um, delete, like we're done. But no, I definitely do now. Like at this point in my streams, I try to just be goofy, silly, funny. I like to just, make people laugh and
Be
smile.
you.
Yeah. And so anytime I get those, I'll ignore it. And honestly, my bouncers are on top of it. Like they don't last in there long anyway. So I don't even
Right.
acknowledge them. Like they don't exist in my happy stream. You know what I'm saying? So
Right, right. It is so important to have a good support system and a great team. If it wasn't for some of the people on this app, I would have stopped streaming 2 years ago already. Do you know what I mean? I started 3 years ago, but I would have stopped
I'm glad.
because it was because of this that I keep on coming back. Yeah, they keep kind of that pressure on. So
I'm one of those conversational persons that like I have a tree, but like my conversation goes in branches. So I didn't I didn't want to lose anybody, but I'll kind of go through the steps briefly. Um, so
right.
I was raised in the system. I was raised in foster care. Um, I never was adopted, so I basically bounced around to different placements. I was very, like I said before, I was very confrontational. So the first time I felt like this house is not going to work for me, or this stepmom or foster mom is not like, wherever I felt just uncomfortable, or if it was a toxic situation, I would just call my caseworker. I'm like, find me another placement. This is not going to work. Like I moved around. I went to 8 high schools. So, I mean, I moved
Wow,
around
that's
a
a
lot.
lot.
Yeah. So, with that being said, I got very comfortable with temporary everything. That took a really negative toll on my life as an adult, at 18 being out of foster care, they're like, good luck in the world. And not having like any
Wow.
direct guidance for that when it came to pursuing relationships. Um, I mean, my relationship that I just exited lasted 6.5 years. So
Wow. So
I was,
similar.
yeah, I was very like clinging to the idea of having a forever home with that person. So that meant regardless of how I was being treated, that's where the problems kind of came
You
into
are
play.
always going to try to tap into making sure everything is good.
With that being said, I fell in love, or what my idea of love was at the time. I fell in love and I became a mother. Um, After having kids, anybody who does not have kids, you'll know, you'll know once you have kids that that feeling of love you try to get from your partner, that doesn't really exist. It really comes from your kids. That's the true unconditional love.
1000%. That
Like
is true love.
the feeling. And once that was introduced to my life, I started to kind of subconsciously, I wasn't aware of it at the time, but now looking back, I'm like, I started to kind of wake up to what standard I have of like, what is family, what is love. And I'm like, putting my foot down in certain areas. So then, fast forward, I exit this toxic relationship with literally nothing but my car and $500. I had 3 kids at the time. This was just 3 years ago. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
But
I got in my car. I knew I had to make this money last. I was scared. I was scared first, but I was like, my mindset as a mother was, um, I want to be everything for my kids that I lacked. Like all the things that I wish I had growing up. I want to make sure that I do those things. So like worrying about where we're gonna live and all those things is not. I wasn't off to a good start to the type of parent that I wanted to be. You know. So I drove from Vegas to North Carolina, and um, I mean, that trip, I had a lot of time to like sit with myself and think. I mean, my kids are very young, so it wasn't like we were having conversations in the car. It really took that drive. It took me like
All right,
3 weeks.
how old were they at the time, if you don't mind me asking?
So my youngest was she's actually gonna turn 4 this month. So she was like
Okay.
barely 1, and then my son was 2, and my daughter was 3. Yeah. So all in diapers. I mean, that was not a road trip that I think any parent would like love to do, but I made the best. I mean, seriously, I did not stay at a hotel. I stopped at rest areas and like put blankets up on the windows and just, you know, had the car running for the heat and stuff. I literally made the best of what I had to
Wow.
make it here. I didn't have a plan. This was the thing. I didn't have
You're
a
a
plan.
warrior, man. Like, one time, that's warrior mode right there. Being a mother and still making sure your kids are straight is two of the most important things. But you took that as a warrior, so I applaud you for that.
My my mindset once I got here was just like I know what I want, which was a nice house that my kids could run and play and laugh, and I could like think of these memories and like watch them just be children, you know. That was my first thing. So then I just made a list for myself, like what is it going to take for me to get a house? You know, what type of income am I going to have to maintain for this house? Because you look at rent and all these other things that come with that. And so I made this list and just looked at it every day as I'm like looking for jobs and applying for jobs and trying to get daycare and trying to get everything sorted out. I don't want to say it's crazy because now I understand like more of what manifestation is, but I believed in myself, and that's where it started
Right.
because I
Very
believed. I
important.
didn't know how, but I was like, I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna get daycare figured out. I'm gonna figure it out. Everything is gonna be
Where
okay.
there's a will, there's a way.
Everything did. The more I spoke positivity over my situation, and I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh yeah, every day was just perfect and I was always positive and amazing. No, I mean, no. I
Yeah.
definitely had my moments where I broke down, but I saw this thing on Facebook or Instagram or something, and it said like you're allowed 15 emotional minutes every day, and then after that you need to wipe your tears and gangster up, like tighten up. And I kind of implement that
That
because I'm like, I need to,
that
we got to be real about what we're feeling and internalize it and look at it and be like, okay, but now what am I going to do about it? And
right.
what we kind of tackled was I had to like accept the fact that we're going to a homeless shelter. And I don't think anybody wants to like go through that because you have to kind of, I started to feel like a failure, right? Right off the bat, because I'm like,
Yes.
this is not where I want my kids to be. This is not my idea of safe. One of the homeless shelters have programs and things sometimes that you can sit in to fill your time, and most of them have requirements. If you're going to stay there, like you have to be out certain times, you have to participate in certain classes, and there was parenting classes, and then there was like a self-worth class, and we read a book called You Are a Badass. It's by Jen Sincero, I believe. That was the first eye opener book I ever read. Like seriously, I recommend that book to everybody.
Yeah.
Um, that was the start of where I really like I already believed in myself enough to like make the move and to like let's do this. I want something different for my life. That book
Right.
created a whole new level because now I started to I actually have a quote. Hold on one